Hello there! Welcome back to my mouldy, smelly, water-filled and very broken Nissan Micra that I was forced to buy by a mystery subscriber against my will for £100. Here's a summary of the story so far. Okay, so this is the situation we have now. As you can see, there's no driver's seat and there's no front passenger seat. They've been in the greenhouse for some time drying out and they're now a lot better than they were. The carpet on the near side, both in the front of the car and the back, is still pulled back and it has dried considerably from when you last saw it, but it's still not as dry as I'd like. Also, you may remember in the previous video I was doing a very dodgy bodge type repair on the water that was pouring in there under the glove box. So that still stands, but we are still getting water in the car because you may remember we suspected the sunroof was leaking, but at the time I couldn't see much sign of it. Now there is more sign of it. Can you see that water around the edge there? So that's pooling down there, hence the bright yellow sponge. But these things aren't the focus of today's video. Today, I want to have a quick look at the engine. Well, this is comfortable. Now, when I first got this car, I tried to start the engine, but there was no noise from it at all. It wasn't cranking over, and as I recalled, I couldn't even hear the fuel pump. That's almost certainly the case now, but let's check just to be sure. There's the key. Let's check it's in neutral. Yes. Handbrake. Buried under the carpet, as you'd expect. Now, maybe the car will surprise us and just start. Come on, car. No. Absolutely nothing at all. As you can hear, or more accurately, as you can't hear. However, again, when I first got the car, I know there was at least a decent amount of charge in the battery. I tested it, albeit off camera, and a lot of the electrical systems were working normally. That's not the case now though. For example, the lights, they're no longer working. The wipers, they're not working. Even the interior light, that's not coming on either. Oh yes it is, just about, but it's so faint it's useless. Now these things suggest, let's turn that off, save what little power I have. These things suggest the battery is predominantly flat, so whatever else is wrong with this engine, it's not going to start with no electrical power. So let's confirm the battery's flat, and if it is, pop it on charge. I'm back in the car because it's so cold outside I'm getting hyperthermia. Now, there are a couple of ways we could evaluate this battery. My preference is with a battery analyzer like this, and you can get something similar for very little money. All we need to do is connect the red cable to the positive terminal like so, and the black cable to the negative. Within a few seconds it then tells me that the voltage on the battery is about 10.9. That's not ideal. What I'd really like to see is something closer to 12.5. But this machine does a lot more than that. I could run a test which evaluates many other things. Only takes a few seconds. And it's telling me, for example, that the state of charge, there you go, 0%. It also says the state of health of this battery is only 9%. So clearly we have a flat and or dead battery. Very useful tool. Now, hang on, which one first? Yep, negative first. If you don't have one of these analyzers, you may well have a basic multimeter. This one's mine, and it won't tell you anything like as much, but it will at least tell you the voltage of the battery. Okay, now have a quick look at this battery charger. My father bought it brand new in either the 1960s or the 1970s. It's really old for a piece of electrical equipment, but remarkably, it still works. We used it only a few months ago to charge a car that's just down there out of shot. Also, look, still got the instructions. And there you are. As you can see, the old charger is working perfectly. Okay, while the battery's on charge, let's have a quick look in the engine bay. What's immediately obvious is that certain components have been removed. Obviously the battery's gone, but that's us. But have a look at this air intake pipe for the engine. That's not properly attached, but never mind, we'll just leave that there, pretend it's okay. Moving on up here, we can see the engine air filter is missing entirely, as is the lid to the box. At least the rubber gasket's there. This is an ignition coil that clearly shouldn't be sitting there. The ignition coil adjacent, or that's supposed to be adjacent, is missing. And if you look down that hole, the spark plug is missing. Moving over here towards the off side of the car, we find the brake fluid reservoir. And for some reason that's not properly attached. Also, this is the pipe for adding windscreen washer fluid, and it's far too short. Now, I've looked through the car and I have found a lot of these missing components, including lots of nuts and bolts, so hopefully I can put things back together. Okay, I'm back in the car, sitting on the floor where there's supposed to be a driver's seat. Now we actually have some electricity in the battery. Let's see where we are. So let's try the lights. Oh yeah, they're working. That looks pretty good. Presumably, therefore, the interior light should be a lot brighter. Oh yes, it is. That's exponentially better. Now, I know the engine's missing a spark plug and one or two other bits and pieces, but nonetheless, I'm curious to see what happens now there's more power in the battery. If we try and start it, that is. I'm not expecting miracles, but let's have a go. Neutral, key in ignition. Come on. Still absolutely nothing. Can't hear the fuel pump even. So there's some kind of electrical issues. See, there's nothing from the blower motor either. The mist on the rear window isn't coming on. Oh! The hazard lights work, that's appropriate. I can't actually tell they're on there apart from because of the noise, because the instrument cluster isn't there, that's still in the boot somewhere. Nonetheless, progress. Hang on. Have a look at this. I've got loads of old paperwork for this car, including, and most notably, the service history. Now, this car was clearly well looked after at one point, and it was regularly serviced. In fact, it had its first service in September 2001, at which point it had only done 2,895 miles. It was then serviced every year up until 2008, but then the servicing stops, at least as far as this document's concerned. And that's a bit weird, because there are lots of other invoices that proved it was serviced on later dates, but nobody bothered to stamp the service booklet. That seems a bit odd, but there you go. Also, look, there's an old tax disc which expired in 2014, and there's this. This is show me, tell me for car drivers, and it's the kind of question you might be asked on your driving test, so presumably this thing at some point belonged to a new driver, which would make sense considering it's a 1 litre Nissan Micra. As for the current mileage, there are loads of invoices, and I haven't looked through every single one, but the most recent I've found says it's done more than 150,000 miles. That's a long way in a car like this. Okay, let's pause there. Clearly there's a lot more work to do on this car, but I'll save that for future videos. In fact, if you subscribe to my channel now, you'll be informed when I release those videos, so you can follow the story and you won't miss out. Right, that's all for now. At least the lights work.